Let me tell you about two guys I'll call Troy and Chad. They went to the same state school, graduated in 2010 with the same engineering degree, got jobs at competing firms in the same city making within $5,000 of each other. Both are now 37 years old, both married, both have kids. From the outside, their lives look identical, except Troy drives a 2024 Ford F-150 Lariat with a $1,000 monthly payment. Chad drives a 2020 Toyota Camry he bought used 3 years ago, paid off last spring. Troy has $14,000 in his 401k. Chad has $340,000. Same income, same start, different car. That's it. My name is Nick, and today we're exposing what I call the new car penalty. Not just the price difference between new and used, the full system, the financing math, the depreciation cliff, the dealership tactics, and the quiet decision most people make at 25 that determines whether they retire at 60 or 72. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how Troy got there and how to not be Troy. Let me back up for a second, because to understand where we are, you have to understand where we came from. In 1995, the average new car in America cost about $20,000. By 2010, it was around $29,000. In September of 2025, it crossed $50,000 for the first time in history. $50,000 for an average car, not a luxury car, not a fully loaded truck. The average. By December of 2025, it had climbed to $50,326. The average new full-size pickup sold for $66,386. That's not a car, that's a mortgage with cup holders. Now compare that to the used market. The average used car listing in 2025 sat around $25,700. A 3-year-old used vehicle averaged $30,699, so we're talking about a roughly $20,000 gap between new and lightly used. 20 grand. That's not a rounding error. That's a down payment on a starter home. That's a really nice emergency fund. That's 2 years of community college for your kid. And here's the part that should make you suspicious. Loan terms have stretched at exactly the same pace as prices. Remember when a car loan was 3 years, maybe 4 if you really stretched it? Those days are as dead as the flip phone. Today, the average new car loan is 69 months. 1 in 5 new car buyers is now signing 84-month loans. 7 years. For a car? That didn't even exist as a loan product before 2008. The industry invented 7-year loans because nobody could afford 5-year loans anymore. And then they invented 8-year loans because nobody could afford 7-year loans. This isn't a market, this is a treadmill. Here's data straight from Experian, which tracks pretty much every auto loan in America. The average new car loan in late 2025, $43,582 financed over 69 months at 6.37%. Monthly payment, $767. The average used car loan, $27,500 financed over 67 months at 11.26%. Monthly payment, $537. Wait, 11% on a used car? Yes. This is the dirty little secret nobody mentions when they tell you to buy used. Banks charge a premium on used car loans because the collateral is older and they're nervous about resale value if you default. So you save money on the sticker price and pay it back in interest. It feels unfair, and it kind of is. Now you might be thinking, well, Nick, if used cars get hit with double the interest rate, doesn't that wreck the whole used car argument? And if that's what you're thinking, I hate to be the bearer of good news, but no, it doesn't, because you're financing a much smaller number. 11% of 27 grand is still less interest than 6% of 43 grand over the same period. The used buyer still wins. They just don't win by as much as the YouTube finance bros want you to think. The actual monthly payment difference between the average new car buyer and the average used car buyer is $230. That's the new car penalty in its simplest form. $230 a month sounds small. Hold that number. We're coming back to it, and when we do, it's going to be ugly. Here's where things get weird. According to Edmunds, in the fourth quarter of 2025, 20.3% of all new car buyers committed to a monthly payment of $1,000 or more. 1 in 5, a record. And these aren't Porsche buyers. They're regular people in regular SUVs and mid-sized trucks. Your coworker who drives the Tahoe, the guy on your block with the silver Telluride, the lady in HR with the new Mercedes lease. How do they get there? Same way every time. They walk in saying, I can afford $400 a month. The finance manager nods politely, then quietly extends the loan term from 60 months to 72, or 84, or in some increasingly common cases, 96 months, 8-year car loans for cars that won't survive 8 years without a transmission rebuild. The finance manager is helping you sign up to make payments on something that will be a corpse by the time you own it. It's like leasing a snowman. In Q4 of 2025, 20.8% of new car loans were 84 months or longer. That's more than 1 in 5 new car buyers signing up for 7+ years of payments just to make the monthly number not look insane. They walk out of the dealership thinking they won the negotiation. They didn't. They just signed a longer prison sentence for the same crime. Now we get to the part of the math that the auto industry never voluntarily explains. Depreciation, which is a polite financial term for what's actually happening, which is your car silently losing value while you make payments on it. I call it the depreciation cliff because it's not a gentle slope. It's a vertical drop in the first year and a slower descent after that. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses about 20% of its value. 20%. Just from the act of driving home. The plates aren't even on it yet, and you've already lost a chunk of your down payment. Over 5 years, the average new car loses about 42% of its original value, according to IC Car's 2026 study. So if you bought a $50,000 car in 5 years, it's worth roughly $29,000. Some cars are worse, a lot worse. The Nissan Leaf loses about 63% of its value over 5 years. The Jaguar I-Pace lost over 72%. The BMW 7 Series about 67%. These aren't cars, they're financial paper shredders that you also use to commute. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. Electric vehicles broadly are the worst depreciators on the market right now. 5-year EV depreciation averages 57%. So when your buddy at work tells you he just bought a new EV because it'll save him money, gently inform him that he is going to take a $60,000 haircut while saving $1,500 a year on gas. The math is rough. On the other end of the spectrum, certain models barely depreciate. The Toyota Tacoma loses about 34% over 5 years. The Porsche 911, the Honda Civic, the Chevy Corvette. There's a small handful of models where buying new is actually defensible from a math perspective. For the average buyer purchasing the average car, you're losing $4,000 to $5,000 a year just in depreciation. That's more than most people contribute to their retirement accounts annually. You are quite literally torching retirement money to maintain new car smell. Here's a number that should keep you up at night. In Q4 of 2025, 29.3% of trade-ins toward new vehicle purchases had negative equity. Nearly 3 out of every 10 people trading in a car owed more on it than the car was worth. The average amount they were underwater, $7,214, an all-time record. And what do most of them do? They roll that negative equity into the next loan. 27% of underwater trade-ins are now in the hole by more than $10,000. Some people walk into dealerships, finance a new car, and start with $15,000 of debt on a car they don't even own anymore. Then they sign up for an 84-month loan on the new car. And in 3 years, when they're tired of it, they'll trade it in again, except now they're underwater on this one too. So they roll another $7,000 into the next loan. This is what I call the negative equity flywheel. The dealers will tell you it's normal. The financial managers will smile and say everyone does it. What's actually happening is millions of Americans are paying for cars they no longer own while simultaneously borrowing money for cars that are losing value faster than they can pay them off. It's a self-perpetuating debt machine. The faster you spin, the deeper you go. It's the financial equivalent of running on a treadmill in quicksand. And the system depends on you not noticing, because the moment people notice they were underwater on their cars, the entire model collapses. So the industry trained you to focus on the monthly payment, the shiny round number on the page. You sign, you drive off, you don't open the loan amortization schedule. You never see how little of your payment is actually paying down the car versus paying interest. That's not an accident, that's design. But here's the part of the new car penalty that's bigger than any of the math. Bigger than depreciation, bigger than interest, bigger than insurance. Most people don't buy cars for transportation, they buy cars for identity, and the industry knows it. That commercial showing the rugged truck climbing a mountain isn't selling you four-wheel drive. It's selling you the fantasy that you're the kind of person who climbs mountains, even though the most off-road driving you've done this year is parking on grass at a kid's birthday party. That luxury sedan ad showing the executive pulling into a clifftop estate isn't selling you a car. It's selling you the lie that buying it will make you that executive. Spoiler, it won't. It'll just put you on a payment plan toward looking like one. People will defend their car payment with the same emotional intensity they defend their family. Suggest to your coworker that he could have bought a used Camry instead of a new F150 and watch what happens. He won't argue the math. He'll get defensive about his identity because in his head, that truck isn't a depreciating asset. It's a statement about who he is, about what he's earned, about not being the kind of guy who drives a lesser car. The auto industry spent decades and billions of dollars engineering this exact emotional response. They figured out the F-150 buyer's average age, his income range, his political affiliation, his music taste, his beer preference, and his deepest insecurities about masculinity. Then they built a marketing apparatus to exploit all of it. By the time he walks into the dealership, he's not making a purchase decision. He's claiming a tribal membership, and he's signing for it with 72 months of his income. Now I can hear the objections through the screen, so let me address the big three before we move on, because if I don't, half of you will spend the rest of the video thinking I'm wrong. Objection number one, but Nick, I need a reliable car for work, and used cars break down. Wrong. Beautifully, demonstrably wrong. AAA's 2025. Your driving cost study found that the average annual maintenance cost for a new car was about $1,300. For a well-chosen 3 to 5-year-old used car, it's $600 to $1,200. So even at the high end, you're paying maybe $100 more per year. That's not constant repairs, that's a tank of gas. The myth of the unreliable used car is mostly told by people who profit when you buy new. Objection number two, but used cars don't have warranties. Most do actually. Certified pre-owned vehicles come with manufacturer-backed warranties extending 2 to 4 additional years. And here's a fun fact. Extended warranties on new cars are one of the highest margin products dealerships sell, which means if you buy a new car with the extended warranty, you're paying for a warranty. Most used buyers get included. Objection number three, but I qualified for the loan, so I can afford it. This is the most expensive sentence in personal finance. Qualifying for a loan and being able to afford it are completely different things. The bank's only question is whether you'll make the monthly payment until they get their money. They don't care if you eat ramen for 7 years to do it. They don't care if you skip retirement contributions. They don't care if your kid doesn't get college money. They care that your debt to income ratio looks acceptable on paper. That's it. Qualifying for a car loan is the financial equivalent of being allowed to walk into a casino. It doesn't mean you should. Now, while we're on the topic, real quick, by the way, I opened a community where I teach people exactly how to research, write, and produce videos like this one, faceless YouTube, personal finance content, long-form scripting, the whole system. Links in the description. Anyway, back to the carnage. Okay, now let's run the actual math, not in a spreadsheet, as a story. Remember Troy and Chad from the intro? Let me show you exactly how their lives diverged. In 2012, both guys were 24 years old, 2 years into their first engineering jobs, each making about $65,000. Both needed cars. Troy walked into a Ford dealership and financed a brand new F-150 XLT, $42,000, 72-month loan, 6.5%, payment $710 a month. Chad walked into a used car lot and bought a 4-year-old Toyota Camry. $16,000, 60-month loan, 7%. Payment $317, difference $393 a month. Troy paid off the F-150 in 2018, at which point it was worth about $20,000. He traded it in, rolled $3,000 of negative equity into a new F-150 Lariat, took out a 72-month loan at 7% on a $54,000 truck. Payment $920 a month. By 2024, he traded that one in too, rolled $6,000 of negative equity, new Lariat, 84-month loan. Payment $1,040. Chad paid off the Camry in 2017, drove it for 5 more years with maybe $800 a year in maintenance, sold it in 2022 for $4,200, and used the cash plus savings to buy a 4-year-old Honda Accord for $19,000. He's still driving it, paid off in 2026. He has not made a car payment in over 4 years. Now here's where it gets interesting. Chad didn't just save the difference, he invested it. $393 a month, automatically transferred into a low-cost index fund every month for 12 years. Then closer to $700 a month for the last 4 years once his car was paid off and Troy's payments kept climbing. At a 7% real return, by 2026, Chad has roughly $147,000 in that one account alone. Add in the retirement contributions he could afford because he wasn't drowning in car debt, and his total invested net worth is about $340,000. Troy has the truck, worth maybe $38,000. He owes $42 on it. He's got $14,000 in his 401k because every spare dollar went to car payments, insurance, fuel, and the occasional repair Ford somehow didn't cover. He drives a beautiful Lariat. He cannot retire. He will statistically still be working at age 67. Chad is on track to retire at 54. Same job, same income, same start. One choice, repeated. That's the new car penalty. Not the difference between 2 cars, the difference between 2 lives. I'm not going to sit here and pretend new cars never make sense. They sometimes do. Just way less often than the industry pretends. First, real 0% financing. When manufacturers offer genuine 0 APR on slow-moving inventory, the math can actually favor new, but only about 3% of new car loans in 2025 carried 0%. 3 out of 100 buyers. The rest of us pay 6, 7, 8%. Second, the depreciation-proof models, Toyota Tacoma, 4Runner, Porsche 911, Jeep Wrangler, models where the used market is so tight that buying new can be cheaper than buying 3-year-old used, rare, but real. Third, legitimate business use with Section 179 deductions. If the vehicle is actually a work asset and you can document business mileage, the tax math shifts. Talk to an accountant. Do not talk to TikTok. Fourth, the 15-plus year keeper. If you'll genuinely drive the car until the wheels fall off, depreciation matters less. Buy a reliable new car, maintain it religiously, never trade it in. The math improves over a long enough timeline. Fifth, if you have a fully funded emergency fund, no other debt, are maxing your retirement accounts, and the payment is a tiny fraction of your income, sure. Buy the new car, you've earned it. The problem isn't new cars existing, the problem is people buying new cars who shouldn't be buying any car at all. Before we wrap up, let me pull back one final curtain. When you sign your loan paperwork, you're sitting in something called the F&I office. F&I stands for Finance and Insurance. It's its own department, its own manager, its own profit targets. According to the Q3 2025 Hague report, the average dealership makes about $2,534 in pure profit per car just from the F&I office. That's profit on top of the car sale itself. Where does that money come from? You. It comes from extended warranties. They upsell you. From gap insurance, they sell for $700 when your regular insurance company would sell it for $30. From wheel and tire protection. From paint protection. From all the little add-ons they slip into the paperwork while you're tired, hungry, and ready to go home. And the single biggest source of F&I profit isn't add-ons, it's the interest rate markup. Here's how it works. The bank approves you at, say, 6%. The dealer is allowed to mark that up by 1 to 2 percentage points and pocket the difference. According to an NBER working paper by Grunewald, Lanning, Lowe, and Saltz, about 78% of auto loans get marked up. The average markup, 1 full percentage point. On a $44,000 loan over 69 months, a 1% markup costs you roughly $1,400 in extra interest. $1,400 going straight into the dealership's pocket for typing a different number into a computer. There's also the Foursquare worksheet where they juggled the trade-in value, the down payment, the monthly payment, and the term, and confuse you so thoroughly you don't realize they raised the price while pretending to lower the payment. There's the trade-in shell game where they overpay for your old car on paper while quietly raising the price of the new one to match. The single most valuable financial move you can make is getting pre-approved by your own bank or credit union before stepping into a dealership. You walk in with a real rate locked in. The dealer can try to beat it, but they can't mark you up. You just saved yourself the price of a used motorcycle for 10 minutes of work. Look, nobody's saying you have to drive a rusted out Civic with mismatched hubcaps. That's not what this video is about. This is about understanding the system you're walking into when you sit down across from that finance manager with the circle number on the page. The auto industry has spent decades engineering that moment to extract maximum value from you while making you feel like you're winning. Extended loan terms, negative equity rolls, marked up interest rates, identity marketing, add-on products. They're not selling you a car, they're selling you a 15-year revenue stream with cup holders. Buying a smart used car isn't a sacrifice, it's a strategy. It's choosing to pay the wealth building tax instead of the dealership tax. It's choosing to drive a perfectly fine 3-year-old Toyota while quietly investing the difference into a future where you actually get to stop working. It's not glamorous. Nobody at a stoplight will compliment your boring sedan, but 20 years from now, when your friends are still making car payments and you're not, you'll be the one with the quiet smile. Here's the sentence I want you to take from this video, because it's the entire game in one line. The car you drive isn't the cost. The car you don't buy is the wealth. Every dollar that doesn't go into a depreciating asset becomes a dollar that compounds for the next 30 years. Troy bought a truck. Chad bought time. That's the choice. That's always been the choice. If you got value from this, the school community is in the description. I'm not a financial advisor. This is educational only. Your decisions are yours. Drive safe, run the math, and I'll see you in the next one.